Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Alyssa Ashe, and so excited to bring you your nightly RSBN Nightly News Recap with Alyssa Ashe. So I have a variety of stories that we're going to go through tonight, and we're going to actually start off with a big win today. It was something that we streamed a little bit earlier, and I apologize, it was not on our schedule. We didn't have any notice of it at all, but we saw some of you commenting and telling us President Trump's about to speak in the Rose Garden. What's going on? So I'm going to tell you guys tonight what happened and kind of a little breakdown, and this is from Reuters. So President Trump met with the European Union's chief executive, Jean-Claude Juncker, and they agreed today to work toward eliminating trade barriers on industrial goods as President Trump appeared to give ground on his threat to impose car tariffs. So this agreement was to pull together a high-level working group to negotiate the tariff. Subsidy and non-tariff barrier reductions could reduce fears of an escalating transatlantic trade war launched by President Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum and a threat to impose a 25% tariff on imported cars and auto parts. So news of this agreement helped global stocks extend their recent rally, and President Trump and Juncker said that after a White House meeting, they agreed to hold sweeping trade talks that also cover increased European purchases of American soybeans and liquefied natural gas, or LNG, and reducing barriers to transatlantic trade in services, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and medical products. And they also said they would cooperate to reform the rules of the World Trade Organization. But President Trump agreed to resolve existing U.S. tariffs on European steel and aluminum, as well as Europe's retaliatory tariffs against American motorcycles, bourbon, and other products. So Juncker said that while negotiations were taking place on those issues, both sides have agreed not to impose new tariffs, including those threatened by President Trump on auto and auto parts. So Juncker said, as long as we're negotiating, unless one party would stop the negotiations, we will hold off further tariffs, and we will reassess the existing tariffs on steel and aluminum. And President Trump's threat to impose tariffs on auto imports would hit European car makers such as BMW, Daimler, and Volkswagen hard, as well as Japanese and South Korean car companies. So the two leaders did not specifically mention car tariffs in their statements, but they kept the focus on other industrial products. And President Trump told reporters at the White House, "We agreed today, first of all, to work together towards zero tariffs, zero non-tariff barriers, and zero subsidies on non-auto industrial goods." And the Commission briefed European Union countries last week on the bloc's possible response to car tariffs, saying in theory that it could hit 9 billion euros of U.S. goods, according to EU sources. So that is very interesting. Definitely a win there. And of course, I want to know your thoughts as well. Do you guys think that this was a good decision that they made today, or a bad decision? And what do you think some of the possible outcomes may be? Would love to find out from you. So please comment here in the YouTube chat. And of course, like I always say, you can also reach out to me on Twitter. And I will throw out my Twitter handle for you guys so that you are able to contact me. It's super simple, easy to remember, at Alyssa RSBN. So make sure to reach out to me on Twitter with any comments you may have that I might not be seeing quick enough in the YouTube chat. And of course, if you also would like to tell me a story idea that I may have missed, something very recent, current, breaking, it could be a big story, but maybe even a smaller story that happened today, please send it to me on Twitter. I would absolutely love to share that with everyone. And I'm so glad to have you all in the chat room. some of our sponsors: A Patriot, Gregory Ash, Mark Hannibal, Carl Peterson is here. And then some of our fantastic moderators, Guinevere, Real Frank in Florida. And I also saw Lady Leatherneck is back. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Really appreciate you. And then some of our regular viewers as well, Light Switch and Zoom are in the house today. So good to have you all. And then over on Facebook, I will be checking those comments as well, because we do have a great audience on Facebook as well. Monica Suit says hello from New York. And Paul Botner says upstate New York in the house as well. And Roxanne Goyne, hello. Oregon Deplorable Hillbilly here. Hey Roxanne, hope you guys are all doing well. And Robin Newsturk from California. So it's so good to have you guys all. Oh, Brian Thomas from Indiana, another new state. So good to have you all in the chat room today. It's going to be so much fun tonight. Yes, and of course, Swoosh for Trump is in the house as well. He is a regular. So thank you so much for being here, Swoosh. Really appreciate you. And Lady Leatherneck, thank you so much for your support on that on YouTube. Really appreciate you. So I want to tell you guys a little bit more information about their deal today. And this is from Breitbart. So the president scored a major win by reaching a limited trade deal with the European Union, which made a major concession to the United States to avoid a trade war. Now, amidst recent tariffs and tensions, European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker arrived at the White House with two options for a deal to avoid a wider trade war, according to ABC News, which was to eliminate tariffs on cars for all trading partners or create a limited free trade agreement between the U.S. and EU on industrial goods. So President Trump, of course, opted for the latter and secured Europe's agreement to buy more American soybeans and liquefied natural gas. And the two also announced that they would begin to work together towards zero tariffs, zero non-tariff barriers, and zero subsidies on non-auto industrial goods. So, of course, the Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped on the news, which was seen as a major win for Trump's gamble of using tariffs, tweets, and threats to extract concessions from U.S. trading partners. And Kavoto said, "This is a dramatic," and in case you don't know who he is the business news anchor of Fox News. And he said, "This is dramatic, a stunning development on trade. The Europeans, it might be deemed, have blinked. They have made concessions to President Trump, they have made to meet the president's demand that lifts tariffs that are already in effect against the European Union. This is a major win for President Trump. It is a major concession on the part of the European Union. A few hours ago, they were poo-pooing all the major publications. For the President of the United States, a win and a big one economically." So that is definitely good news. And also, you guys may have seen earlier today at the Senate hearing, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was fighting back after GOP Senator Corker hit President Trump for purposeful sowing of doubt and distrust. So I'm going to go through a little bit of that information with you guys right now, and then I will show you a video of them going back and forth from that Senate hearing. And this is from Fox News. So Secretary of State Mike Pompeo clashed with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle during a tense Senate hearing on Wednesday, as he took a firm line on Russia amid criticisms that the Trump administration has been soft on Moscow. So the hearing appearance marked the administration's highest profile chance to address sustained criticism over last week's summit between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Helsinki, Finland. So Pompeo declared that the U.S. would never recognize the Kremlin's annexation of Crimea and threatened severe consequences for any future meddling in America's elections. So Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Bob Corker, Republican from Tennessee, sharply criticized the Helsinki meeting at the opening of Wednesday's hearing, saying the White House has a ready, fire, aim approach and is waking up every morning and making it up as they go. And wow, we just received our first donation of the night on YouTube, $49.99 from Brando, the Thirst Mutilator. Thank you very, very much for that. He said Facebook and Twitter do not censor you, but YouTube does. That's definitely true, but we have not had any black screens yet tonight. So hoping and praying that it stays that way. So also during their back and forth debate, there was a particularly dramatic moment when Corker pressed Pompeo to explain what he characterized as President Trump's purposeful efforts to sow misinformation and discord. And Corker said that shocks people to purposefully cause the American people to misunderstand about the NATO contributions and to cause them to doubt NATO and to really drive the public opinion against NATO. That to me was purposeful, not unlike what happened right after Charlottesville. And he was actually referring to the violent, even deadly protests in Charlottesville, Virginia last August, after which President Trump took the heat for not more forcefully condemning the actions of white nationalists there. And Corker also said, why does he do those things? Is there some strategy behind creating doubt in U.S. senators' minds on both sides of the aisle, doubt in the American people as to what his motivations are? It's the president's actions that create tremendous distrust in our nation. Among our allies, it's palpable. Is there a strategy to this? And I apologize to you guys watching on Facebook and Twitter. We just got another black screen on YouTube. So I'm going to send a message real quick to my followers to come and watch where you're watching. Okay, so we're back on YouTube and just got a $19.99 donation from Holy Moly Donut Shop. Thank you very much for that. Who says last donate here now, only PayPal. Yes, thank you very much for that. Holy moly, really appreciate your donation. And he mentioned PayPal. That's another way you can donate with us, but I will share that with you guys, that information about how you can donate soon. But first, I want to keep going through this with you guys. So Pompeo responded that President Trump had a direct role in the administration's aggressive actions against Russia, saying this administration has been tougher than previous administrations on Putin. And the Secretary of State outlined a variety of measures taken by the Trump administration against Russia, including making lethal defense weapons available to Ukraine, a move resisted by the Obama administration, and the expulsion of dozens of Russian operatives from the U.S. And he also cited President Trump's opposition to the planned Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Russia to Germany, which the president has charged poses national security risks to European countries by increasing their dependence on Russia. And Pompeo said, "Senator, I just disagree with most of what you said there. Somehow there's this idea that this administration is free-floating. This is President Trump's administration. Make no mistake who's fully in charge of this and directing each of these activities that is causing Vladimir Putin to be in a very difficult place today." And then Corker responded by saying, "You're not responding to what I'm saying. You just didn't, okay?" And Pompeo retorted, "We'll let the world decide." And he added that NATO members have pledged to increase their share of defense spending, in part because of President Trump's rhetoric. And he said they are behaving differently today. There's no doubt about that. They are now scrambling to make sure they are a full part of NATO. I agree with that. But then Corker was the one that said they're now scrambling to make sure they're a full part of NATO. And I agree with that, but he claims some of President Trump's comments are damaging. So Pompeo also clashed publicly with New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez, the top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And Pompeo said, "I understand the game you're playing." And the senator repeatedly pressed him to reveal what Trump and Putin discussed in their 2-hour conversation last week. And Menendez said, "I don't appreciate you characterizing my questions." Pompeo, however, insisted that U.S. sanctions and other policies toward Russia remain the same. And he testified, "I want to assure this committee that the United States does not and will not recognize the Kremlin's purported annexation of Crimea. There will be no relief of Crimea-related sanctions until Russia returns control of the Crimean Peninsula to Ukraine." And in a fiery moment at the end of the hearing, Pompeo accused Menendez of delivering a political soliloquy, with Menendez raising his voice and charging that he'd be peeling Pompeo off the Capitol ceiling if Obama had done what Trump did in Helsinki. So both Democratic and Republican lawmakers fiercely criticized Trump's performance at the Helsinki summit. But I'm not going to get into that right now because I want to first show you guys that video of Secretary of State Pompeo going back and forth with these different senators during the Senate hearing today. So I'm going to pull that up for you guys. And this is from Fox News.
The State Department bringing on people that are truly exemplary. We have faith in your ability to make things happen, and we thank you for all the issues you're taking on. You're building a great culture in the State Department, bringing on people that are truly exemplary. We feel the same way about Secretary Mattis. The way he conducts himself and what he does. I think there's tremendous faith on both sides of the aisle in his abilities and what he does. Much of what you're hearing today has nothing whatsoever to do with you, and I would agree with you that the policies that we're putting in place in many cases are stronger than have ever been put in place. I agree with you. It's the president that causes people to have concerns. And I'd love to have some insights into you as to, for instance, at the Helsinki conference, to create an equivalence between our intelligence agency and what Putin is saying that shocks people. I mean, you can imagine you saw Dan Coates' response afterwards, and yours today, I think, candidly was related to what he said at Helsinki. And then the notion of even thinking about exchanging diplomats, sending diplomats over to be interrogated by Putin, to even think about that, to let that be said as an official statement coming out of the White House to, this is my opinion, and I believe it's right, to purposely cause the American people to misunderstand about the NATO contributions and to cause them to doubt NATO and to really drive public opinion against NATO. That, to me, was purposeful, not unlike what happened right after Charlottesville. And then Article 5, to go on television and say, well, why would we honor, I'm paraphrasing, but why would we honor Article 5 in Montenegro? You know, we passed a law, I think only 2 people dissented to send them into NATO. He signed it. I mean, it would be a dereliction of duty if he did cause that to be the case. So why does he do those things? I mean, is there some strategy behind creating doubt in U.S. senators' minds on both sides of the aisle, doubt in the American people as to what his motivations are, when we, in fact, have tremendous faith in you? I think you're a patriot. Tremendous faith in Mattis. But it's the president's actions that create tremendous distrust in our nation, among our allies. It's palpable. We meet and talk with them. Is there a strategy to this, or is it what is it that causes the president to purposely create distrust in these institutions and what we're doing?
Senator, I disagree with most of what you just said there. You somehow disconnect the administration's activities from the president's actions. They're the one and the same. Every sanction that was put in place was signed off by the President of the United States. Every spy that was removed was directed by the President.
Go to the points I just made. Go to the points I just made. Talk to them. Talk to them. I know what we're doing. Talk to the points I just made.
Here's what the world needs to know.
Okay.
With respect to Russia, this administration has been tougher than previous administrations, and I fully expect it will. The President's own words were, he's happy to figure out if we can make improvements with respect to the relationship between he and Vladimir Putin and change the course. But if not, he'll be their, I'll get the words wrong, he'll be their toughest enemy, most difficult enemy. I think I can prove that that's the case today. I think I have.
Yeah.
And so somehow there's this idea that this administration is free-floating. This is President Trump's administration, make no mistake, who's fully in charge of this, and who is directing each of these activities that has caused Vladimir Putin to be in a very difficult place today.
Well, look, you handle yourself in exactly the way you should, in my opinion, as it relates to comments. I notice that you are not responding to what I'm saying.
I think I responded to everything that you said, Senator.
No, you didn't. And the fact is that you just didn't, okay?
We just simply disagree.
No, we don't disagree. Hell, let's run the transcript again if you want to talk about it. But the fact is
let the world
that
decide.
It's the president's public statements that create concern amongst senators on both sides of the aisle. And I was asking you if, in fact, there was some rhyme or reason that this type of distrust or discord would be created. And I know you're not going to answer the question, but I'm trying to make a point as to why.
I know you are.
Why the open comments and the questions and just the energy behind this hearing are what they are. It's not about you, and it's not about Madison, and it's not what we're doing on the ground.
Senator, you went through a long litany of statements, but let me give you, first of all, I will tell you, I talk to the same allies you do. I speak to their foreign ministers directly. It is the case that they are behaving differently today. There's no doubt about that. They are now scrambling to figure out how to make sure that they are fully part of NATO. Some of that is a result of the statements that you referred to, Senator. Yeah. Some of that is identifying Nord Stream 2 as a problem.
I actually agree with that. I agree with that.
Right. These are the, well, there you go. I'll let the record reflect.
I'll say some of
these statements actually achieve important policy outcomes for the United States of America.
Some of them do.
Yep.
And some of them very damaging.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that statement. A little back and forth, but of course, Pompeo was holding his own. And I saw some of your comments about it here, and I would love to see what else you think. Carl Peterson says Pompeo is polite, but also I have some right side broadcasting breaking news for you guys. So we are actually having not just one rally next week, but two that we will be attending. It was just announced by the Trump campaign just minutes ago that there will be another rally Thursday, August 2nd in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And so I'm going to kind of go through this release with you guys. And I don't know if it's pronounced Wilkes or Wilkes-Barre. So we'll just go with the second right now. But anyways, so President Trump announced that the next MAGA rally featuring President Donald Trump will be in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania on Thursday, August 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is the 22nd rally that President Trump has held in the great state of Pennsylvania, and his 6th rally in the Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area since he first began his run for presidency in 2015. So the president is expected to address the latest data from the booming Trump economy, including the new jobs benefiting families throughout Pennsylvania, his tireless efforts to protect American manufacturing jobs from bad trade deals, and the importance for Pennsylvanians to get out and vote this fall to support his agenda, especially in Republican Lou Barletta's race to unseat Democratic Senator Bob Casey. So, the Trump campaign is pleased to announce the scheduling of the next Make America Great Again rally in Wilkes-Barre. That's how you say it, Wilkes-Barre. Sorry about that, Pennsylvania, on Thursday, August 2nd, featuring President Donald Trump. And this is from Michael Glassner, the COO for Donald J. Trump for President, Inc. And he said, certainly, the boom from the Trump economy is being felt throughout Pennsylvania, especially with the surge in new manufacturing jobs. President Trump looks forward to celebrating these and other successes with our fellow patriots at the rally next week, when he will also remind Pennsylvanians the importance about getting out to vote in the midterm elections this fall. So the British Patriot just asked, what's this about Pennsylvania? So there actually will be a rally next Thursday in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, along with one in Tampa, Florida on Tuesday. So it is going to be an extremely busy week for us here at RSBN. I don't even know. We'll have like 5 minutes to come home and then, you know, go back to the airport and jump on another plane. So it's going to be really, really crazy. Don't know how it's all going to work out yet, but don't worry, it will. And of course, it's going to be very expensive as well. So as you guys know, and I've said before, these rallies are at a minimum of $5,000 per rally. So, you know, 2 rallies in 1 week, we're looking at over $10,000. So it's going to be super expensive. And so if you're new to Right Side and you don't know, what we do, so we go to these President Trump rallies all around the country, and we interview people. We show the entire crowd, like the entire crowd. We pan the whole crowd back and forth multiple times throughout the broadcast, and we get in the middle of the crowd and we just interview people. We get to know their hearts. We get to know, why they're there, how long they've traveled, how long they've been waiting for to hear President Trump speak, and just how it's going for them, different things like that. And so anyways, as you can imagine, it's very expensive, and so we are here at Right Side 100% donor supported. So that means we are only able to go to these rallies because of you guys and because of your support. So real quick, just, while we're on the topic of rallies, I'm going to tell you guys the different ways you can donate to help us get there. So one way is that you can actually just click the $ right here in the chat, the super chat button, this $ right here in the chat box on YouTube, and you are able to donate any amount you want. It's super fun. It comes up in a bright color with your name, and you're able to type a fun message as well. So another way you can donate, I'm going to show you guys real quick on our website. So you just go to our website, and over on this top bar right here, you can see the donate button. So you just hit that, and it goes in and shows you the 3 other ways you can donate after YouTube. So the first one on the website, of course, is with PayPal, and we do get to keep about 90% of those donations. They just keep 10%, whereas on YouTube, they do keep 70%. And I forgot to say, we already got one of our first PayPal donations of the night, $100 from Holy Moly Donut Shop. Wow, thank you so much for that, Holy Moly, if you're still watching. And also a promise that whenever we come in, we can get a custom donut. So that'll be really fun if we're ever in the Detroit area. Thank you so much for that, Holy Moly. So anyways, here is how you donate on PayPal. It's super easy. You just enter the amount right here and your debit or credit card information, your billing address, and then of course your contact information. And also, maybe you've been watching Right Side for a long time. You feel a little more invested with us. You want to help out and make sure every month that we are supported and that we'll still be able to broadcast for you guys and travel to all of the fun rallies. So you can also donate on patreon.com. And that was that second link I showed you guys over there and on our website. So you just go to Patreon, and you can see the different levels right here on the side. Entry, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, double diamond, and all access. And when you donate that way, you actually get a little something in return as well. We send you fun things like hats, t-shirts, pens, and pencils, and stickers and mugs, all that say Right Side Broadcasting Network with our great logo, just so that you can remember us throughout the day and remember to continue watching our programs. So that is a really fun way to donate. And the last way, maybe you're not comfortable giving online. We completely understand and respect that. You can also just mail a check directly to us through the mail to RSBN. You just write the check out to RSBN and you can send it to our P.O. Box, and that is 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama 36830. So that is also a very easy way to donate as well. Okay, so switching back over, and it does look like I received one story from a viewer who sent it to me on Twitter, Jasmine Ruiz. Thank you so much for that. And it just happened 9 hours ago. And it is from ACLJ.org, the American Center for Law and Justice. And the story is that Pastor Andrew Brunson is allowed to return home in Turkey. And so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background on that. And I see your question, Doug M. Will you and the crew have a nightly stream on Wednesday before the PA rally? Yes, we definitely will. We always do. We have those pre-rally streams and post-rally streams as well. So stay tuned for those for both rallies. So like I said, this is from the American Center for Law and Justice. And I'm going to show you guys a picture of him real quick before I go through what happened. So here is Pastor Andrew Brunson. So in a major development, he's been moved from the Turkish prison to his house in Turkey. And the ACLJ represents the family of Pastor Andrew, who is a U.S. citizen, actually from Black Mountain, North Carolina. And he spent nearly 21 months imprisoned in Turkey because of his Christian faith. And he's been on trial for the crime of Christianization, and the ACLJ has been working in his country and abroad to secure his freedom. So we have confirmed that the Turkish government has issued an order releasing Pastor Andrew from prison and allowing him to be returned to his home in Turkey. So this is a critical first step that they believe will result in the freedom of Pastor Andrew so he can return to the United States and be reunited with his family. And as you know, the president has played a critical role in securing the freedom of Pastor Andrew. The ACLJ has worked closely with the president on this matter and are grateful for his efforts, and they look forward to the ultimate release of Pastor Andrew. And just received a $5 donation from my dad, Gregory Ashe. Thank you so much for that. One of my biggest fans who said RSBN and Alyssa, #1. Thank you so much, Dad. I really appreciate that. So, like I said, as you knew, the president really helped this pastor be released, and the ACLJ worked closely with the president on this matter, and they're grateful for his efforts, and they look forward to the ultimate release of Pastor Andrew. So in the ACLJ's representation of Pastor Andrew's family, they have mobilized their international resources, which includes ACLJ affiliated offices in this region seeking Pastor Andrew's freedom. So the ACLJ launched a global campaign to generate awareness of Pastor Andrew's plight and called the U.S. State Department as well as international organizations, including the United Nations as well as NATO member countries, to demand Turkey, a NATO member, release Pastor Andrew. and the ACLJ has been advocating for the protection of Christians and other religious minorities for years. And they've been very active in working to bring an end to the persecution of Christians taking place in many parts of the world. And it just says, we'll keep you updated as the situation progresses. Please continue to pray for Pastor Andrew and his family. So thank you so much for sending that to me, Jasmine. Really appreciate your story tip. And like I said, to everyone watching right now, maybe if there's a news story today that's really close to your heart or really interests you that I have not yet shared, and I may not, run across if I don't hear it from you guys. So I'm going to share my Twitter handle with you guys real quick. And it's super simple, easy to remember, but I'll leave it up for a couple minutes just so you guys can have it. That's at Alyssa RSBN. And that's how you'll be able to directly reach me on Twitter. And just received a $10 donation from Watchman117. Thank you so much for that. He said, "This is Ronnie Mercer. Great job on the report on Hollywood pedophiles, Alyssa." And that was a couple nights ago. And he said, "Look forward to more special reports." Thank you very much for that, Ronnie. Really appreciate you. And checking back on Twitter just to make sure none of you have sent me any more stories real quick. And one of our loyal viewers and supporters, Santino, said, "Always watch you on Periscope and always works faultlessly. And that's with my basic internet connection. Encourage more to watch on Periscope." So you guys can definitely watch on Periscope as well if you are having any issues here on YouTube. And yes, I see your comment, the British Patriot. Sorry, I haven't responded yet. He said, "Is the Trump team giving y'all Ethernet access for the rally?" We don't know yet. Hopefully, we will definitely try, but it has not been successful so far. They've been very internal about their Ethernet and just not sharing it with anyone. So I don't think so, but definitely hopeful, and we will, of course, try. Thank you, the British Patriot, for asking me. Yes, and just received a message on Twitter from Clegan. Thank you very much for that. Of a tweet that Mark Lechman tweeted. Just in, Mark Zuckerberg just lost. Wow. Like trillions of dollars as Facebook stocks dives 20% in under 2 hours. I say that's just what he gets for trying to censor conservatives. Karma comes back one way or another. Who agrees? And I actually have a story on that. And so I'm going to pull that up for you guys. Okay, so this is from Reuters as well, and it happened this afternoon. Facebook stock falls 24% on forecast for slowing growth, rising expenses. So Facebook Inc. stock fell as much as 24% after hours on Wednesday over concerns about the impact of privacy issues on the social media company's business, with executives warning that revenue growth would slow and expenses would rise. So the plummeting stock price wiped out about $150 billion in market capitalization in just under 2 hours, and the company had actually cautioned investors to expect a big jump in cost because of efforts to address concerns about poor handling of users' privacy and to better monitor what users post. Total expenses in the second quarter surged to $7.4 billion, up to 50% compared with a year ago. So the chief financial officer, David Wenner, actually said our total revenue growth rates will continue to decelerate in the second half of 2018, and we expect our revenue growth rates to decline by high single-digit percentages from prior quarters, consequently in both quarter 3 and quarter 4. And he said that expenses are expected to grow 50% to 60% compared with last year as the company invests in security, marketing, and content acquisition. And he also said over the next several years, we would anticipate that our operating margins will trend towards the mid-30s on a percentage basis. And he said margins would be down for more than 2 years. And Facebook's operating margin actually fell to 44% in the second quarter from 47% a year ago. So the new General Data Protection Regulation, or the GDPR, in the European Union forced several changes to Facebook's privacy terms and sign-up process. And Morningstar analyst Ali Moharabi actually said when it comes to slower revenue growth, they're talking about currency headwinds, but the more we think it's due to slower user growth given GDPR and the more focus on privacy. So Facebook saw monthly active users in Europe decline about 1 million people amid the new regulations. And this is what Facebook chief executive Mark Zuckerberg said on the conference call. And a data privacy scandal actually involving the political consulting firm Cambridge Analytica and misinformation on WhatsApp contributing to mob killings in India have added to the pressure on Facebook to reevaluate how its services maintain security and decorum. So Facebook's revenue grew at its slowest pace in almost 3 years, and sales grew 14% to $13.2 billion in the second quarter compared with $9.3 billion a year ago. So the company reported $5.1 billion in profit, or $1.74 per share, compared with the average estimates of $5.1 billion and $1.72 share among research gathered by Reuters. So growth in new users, with Facebook adding 11% more daily and monthly active users on the main Facebook app in the second quarter compared with 13% in the first quarter. So daily user growth for Facebook's namesake service has slid in 6 straight quarters, bringing it to 1.4 billion users in the second quarter from 1.23 billion at the end of 2016 when it became embroiled in political issues. So Instagram, which of course, as you know, Facebook owns, has grown to 1 billion monthly users from 600 million in late 2016, while Facebook's other 2 messaging apps, Messenger and WhatsApp, have each reported well over 1 billion monthly users. So about 2.5 billion people use at least one of the company's apps each month, Facebook said on a conference call with investors and analysts. So Instagram is expected to account for 18% of Facebook's revenue this year and 23% next year, according to research firm eMarketer. And Colin Sebastian, who is actually an analyst at Robert W. Bard & Co., said in a note, "It appears that stronger Instagram performance, according to our checks, was not enough to offset some of the core app headwinds." And nearly all social media services have received greater scrutiny since U.S. intelligence agencies in January 2017 revealed that organizations tied to the Russian government had seeded content on the platform to shake up the 2016 U.S. presidential election. So the threat of additional regulatory setbacks remains a concern, according to analysts. And Facebook suffered a blow in China on Wednesday when regulators there withdrew their approval of a company innovation hub to support local startups. And the New York Times reported this on Wednesday, citing a person familiar with the matter. So thank you very much, Clegan on Facebook, for that tip and for reminding me to check out that story. And also tonight, so this actually happened today. CNN said that one of its correspondents, Caitlin Collins, was excluded from covering the White House Trump event. So she was barred from the Rose Garden Today event for asking questions at an earlier event about the audio recording of President Trump discussing with his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, and I talked about this earlier today on the stream you guys saw, about the fund being established to pay former Playboy model Karen McDougal for keeping quiet about her alleged affair with Trump. So Collins asked about the audio recording in a picture-taking session in the Oval Office as President Trump met with European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. So CNN said in a statement that Collins was told by White House Communications Director Bill Shine and Press Secretary Sarah Sanders that her questions had been inappropriate and she couldn't attend an event later in the Rose Garden during which Trump and Juncker announced a joint working dialogue on trade. And CNN said this decision to bar a member of the press is retaliatory in nature and not indicative of an open and free press. We demand better. And as you know, President Trump has frequently complained about CNN's coverage of his presidency, saying he feels it's unfair. And the White House had no immediate comment on CNN's statement. But Oliver Knox, who is president of the White House Correspondents Association, denounced the White House decision. He said, "We strongly condemn the White House's misguided and inappropriate decision today to bar one of our members from an open press event after she asked questions they did not like. And this type of retaliation is wholly inappropriate, wrong-handed, and weak. It cannot stand." And he also said, "Reporters asking questions of powerful government officials, up to and including the president, helps hold those people accountable. In our republic, the WHCA supports the prerogative of all reporters to do their jobs without fear of reprisal from the government." Okay, so moving on a little bit. I'm going to clear some of this up. So this is an interesting story, which actually had a great result for one high school senior. And his name is Addison Barnes. He's 18 years old. And I'm going to show you guys a picture of him real quick. So here is Addison Barnes, and you can see his t-shirt that says Donald J. Trump's Border Wall Construction Co. And it says the wall just got 10 feet taller. So he actually sued his school district after administrators said he could not wear this pro-Trump border wall t-shirt, and he will actually be given a written apology and $25,000 in a settlement. So he was suspended earlier this year after he refused to cover up his Donald J. Trump Border Wall Construction Co. t-shirt. And like I said, and you can see here on the bottom of the shirt, it features, it says the wall just got 10 feet taller. And this is from Fox News Insider, in case you're wondering. So it was worn by Barnes in his People and Politics class on a day where immigration would be discussed. So he actually sued his school, the Hillsborough School District, and Principal Greg Timmons, claiming that his First Amendment rights had been violated. And on Tuesday, his lawyers announced they'd reached a settlement with the district, that Timmons, the principal, will write an apology letter to Barnes, and the district will pay $25,000 to Barnes to cover his legal fees. And Barnes said in a statement that he brought the case to stand up for myself and other students who might be afraid to express their right of center views. And Timmons, the principal, actually said in a statement, as an educational, and this was the statement that was actually released after the settlement, as an educational institution, Hillsborough School District and each of our schools supports, encourages, and celebrates free speech and reasoned debate. We also have a responsibility to ensure that each of our students feels welcome and safe in our schools so that they can effectively learn. This was an instance where we were challenged to do both simultaneously, and the decision landed on the side of ensuring student safety. Moving forward, we will continue to use professional discretion to meet both objectives and will actively seek ways to turn sensitive situations into learning opportunities. So definitely a good day for Addison Barnes, receiving $25,000, or at least his lawyers were. Not really sure how much of that he got to keep. And switching back over, this is actually from Vice News, something we experience a lot here on YouTube. An article came out today that Twitter is shadow banning prominent Republicans like the RNC chair and Trump Jr.'s spokesman. So Twitter is limiting the visibility of prominent Republicans in search results, and this technique is known as shadow banning, in what it says is a side effect of its attempts to improve the quality of discourse on the platform. So the Republican Party chair, Ronna McDaniel, several conservative congressmen, and Donald Trump Jr. spokesman no longer appear in the auto-populated drop-down search box on Twitter. It's a shift that diminishes their reach, of course, on the platform, and it's the same ones being deployed against prominent racists to limit their visibility. So the profiles continue to appear when conducting a full search, but not in the more convenient and visible drop-down bar. But if you already follow the person, the accounts will populate. So Democrats are not being shadow banned in the same way. And McDaniel's counterpart, Democratic Party Chair Tom Perez, and liberal members of Congress, including Republican Representatives Maxine Waters, Joe Kennedy III, Keith Ellison, and Mark Pocan, all continue to appear in drop-down search results. Not a single member of the 78-person Progressive Caucus faces the same situation in Twitter's search. And McDaniel actually told Vice News in a statement, the notion that social media companies would suppress certain political points of view should concern every American. Twitter owes the public answers to what's really going on. And of course, presented with screenshots of the searches, a Twitter spokesperson told Vice News, "We are aware that some accounts are not automatically populating in our search box and shipping a change to address this." And asked why only conservative Republicans appear to be affected and not liberal Democrats, the spokesperson wrote, "I'd emphasize that our technology is based on account behavior, not the content of the tweets." And Twitter directed Vice News to a May 15th blog post that explained the company's new approach to combating troll-like behaviors. And after making changes to the platform, the company said that the result is that people contributing to the healthy conversation will be more visible in conversations and search. But Twitter did not respond to a follow-up question. So Twitter's troll hunt, as it's being called, has ensnared some of the most prominent Republicans in the country. If you type in names of McDaniel, conservative members of Congress like Representatives Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, and Matt Gaetz, and Trump Jr. spokesman Andrew Serbain, Twitter's drop-down search bar does not show their profiles. And the search menu also does not display the verified profile of Representative Devin Nunes of California, only his unverified one that he really doesn't use to post. So that limits their visibility, of course, and their reach, and the ease of finding their profiles compared to their liberal counterparts. So the company's drop-down search bar has also been excluding several prominent racist figures on the alt-right, such as Jason Kessler, who organized last year's white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. And it's also demoted other far-right figures. And even Mike Cernovich, who I told you guys about recently, he is just a great source, and he's worked for RSBN. We did a stream the other night about all the tweets he had released from, different pedophiles in Hollywood, different actors, directors, writers, producers. So we went through that, and he's often called alt-right, but he is not. So the rationale determining which accounts auto-populate in search results and which don't is unclear. InfoWars and its leader Alex Jones have not been demoted, despite often spreading, some right-wing, conspiracy theories. And Republican Representative Steve King, who tweeted that immigration should be limited because we can't restore our civilization with somebody else's babies, also appears to be unaffected by this change in the company's search function. And he retweeted a self-proclaimed Nazi sympathizer last month and he declined to take it down when he was notified of the person's history. And New York Law School professor Ari Ezra Waldman testified at the House Judiciary Committee's April hearing on social media and its filtering, and is the author, of Privacy as Trust, Information Privacy for an Information Age. Tweeted, "There isn't evidence of a pattern of anti-conservative bias since some Republicans still appear and some don't. This just appears to be a cluster of conservatives who have been affected." And even if the shadow banning is more of a bug than a feature, the demotion of these prominent Republicans could be political liability for the social media company. So conservatives in and out of Congress have been claiming for months, with varying amounts of evidence, that big tech companies are censoring voices on the right. And the Republican-led House Judiciary Committee convened not one but two hearings on the subject in recent months, including one with pro-Trump social media stars Diamond and Silk, who argued that Facebook had intentionally been diminishing the reach of their content. And the second hearing went down just last week, where representatives from Twitter, Google, and Facebook were subjected to grilling by conservatives. So a spokesman for Gates actually told Vice News, "It is curious that these allegations would arise the week following Congressman Gates's heated exchange with Twitter senior executives before the House Judiciary Committee." And the allegations of bias haven't been limited to Congress either. McDaniel and President Trump's 2020 campaign manager, Brad Parscale, wrote a letter to Facebook and Twitter in June asking for the companies to conduct public reviews of potential bias against conservative content on their platform. And they wrote, "We are alarmed by the numerous allegations that Facebook has blocked content from conservative journalists and groups, and Twitter has hidden such content from conservative users' followers." And an RNC spokesperson told Vice News that Twitter has yet to respond to McDaniel, but that Facebook reached out to set up a meeting. And of course, they don't understand because it doesn't happen to them, but Democrats have largely just rolled their eyes at the conservative claims of discrimination. So at Diamond and Silk's hearing back in April, the committee's top-ranking Democrat, Jared Nadler, called the idea of big tech censorship of conservatives a hoax and a tired narrative of imagined victimhood that was eclipsing other priorities like election security and online privacy. But Facebook and Twitter have appeared to take the conservative criticism seriously and have arranged a series of meetings and public reviews aimed to build up trust with influential figures on the right. Now, despite some evidence that Diamond and Silk were exaggerating their claims, Facebook publicly apologized to the duo in front of Congress last week. And Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey convened a DC dinner on June 19th with prominent conservatives, including White House advisor Mercedes Schlapp, Fox News commentator Guy Benson, and tax activist Grover Norquist, as the Washington Post first reported. But the black box of the platform's changes still have conservatives worry, and House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy of California said this type of opaque behavior by social media companies is exactly why conservatives are speaking out and demanding more transparency and accountability. This bias has got to stop. So there's an update for you guys about censorship to conservatives from Facebook and Twitter. And we've been seeing a little bit of that tonight with the black screens, but we are good right now, and so hopefully it'll stay that way. And British Patriot is saying new Trump tweet. So I'm going to check that out real quick and share it with you guys. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys all the new tweets that I have not mentioned since my last broadcast. So there were a lot of tweets about the deal today as well. So he also shared the video, and you can see right here it says the United States and the European Union have a $1 trillion bilateral trade relationship, the largest economic relationship in the world. We want to further strengthen this trade relationship to the benefit of all American and European citizens. And he also tweeted just a few hours ago, this week my administration is hosting the first ever IRF ministerial. The U.S. will continue to promote religious freedom around the world. Nations that support religious freedom are far more free, prosperous, and peaceful. Great job, Vice President, Secretary Pompeo, IRF Ambassador, and State Department. And he also said, Sergio Marcion, who passed away today, was one of the most brilliant and successful car executives since the days of the legendary Henry Ford. It was an honor for me to get to know Sergio as POTUS. He loved the car industry and fought hard for it. He will be truly missed. So I love some of those, more personal tweets that he sends out, just honoring those that really meant a lot to him. And then he shared his job approval rating among Republicans at 88%. And he tweeted, great meeting on trade today with Juncker EU and representatives of the European Union. We have come to a very strong understanding and are all believers in no tariffs, no barriers, and no subsidies. Work on documents has already started and the process is moving along quickly. European nations will be open to the United States and at the same time benefiting by everything we're doing for them. There was a great warmth and feeling in the room. A breakthrough has been quickly made that nobody thought possible. And then he shared a picture just greeting Juncker warmly with a hug and a kiss on the cheek. And he said, obviously the European Union, as represented by Juncker EU, and the United States, as represented by yours truly, love each other. And after Brian Kemp's win, he said, thank you, Georgia. They say that my endorsement last week of Brian Kemp in the Republican primary for governor against a very worthy opponent lifted him from 5 points down to a 70% to 30% victory. Two very good and talented men in a great race. Congrats to Brian. And he also retweeted Dan Scavino Jr.'s post. with a picture of President Trump and Juncker, and he said, we met today to launch a new phase in the relationship between the U.S. and the EU, a phase of close friendship, of strong trade relations, in which both of us will win, of working better together for global security and prosperity, and of fighting jointly against terrorism. And President Trump said, it says 21 minutes ago, but it also says 6:01, so a couple hours ago. He said, great to be back on this track with the European Union. This was a big day for free and fair trade. And he also tweeted, European Union representatives told me that they would start buying soybeans from grape farmers immediately. Also, they will be buying vast amounts of LNG. So great updates there. And I'm going to switch back over real quick and then check Twitter. Looks like I have a couple messages from you guys. So this is one that happened this morning, and Santino just mentioned it to me. He said, what do you make of the disgraceful destruction of President Trump's Hollywood star again? Did you see that? Yes, I did, Santino. Just ridiculous and heartbreaking. I'm going to share that with you guys. For those of you who haven't seen it. So it was actually destroyed with a pickaxe. And I'm going to show you guys this quick video from Fox News before we go into some details about it. So the vandal has been taken into custody. And this is just the latest case of where it's been vandalized. In the past, it's been broken into pieces. So that was definitely a heartbreaking situation. I hate that it happened. Totally inappropriate. Just no respect there. And so I'm going to share with you guys some information about what happened. So according to the AP, Los Angeles police officer Ray Brown said the star vandalism was reported around 3:30 a.m. on Wednesday, and a man has since been taken into custody, and Brown did not offer any other information on the vandal suspect. So KUTV's reporter Ron Bird tweeted a video from the scene showing a completely bashed slab where the president's star used to be. And President Trump was awarded his Hollywood Walk of Fame honor for his work as the creator and host of the reality series The Apprentice. So this is not the first time that the president's star has taken a hit. Back in 2016, right before he was elected president of the United States, his star was defaced. And according to TMZ, The vandal scratched off President Trump's name and his television icon, which appeared on the face of the star. And Deadline Hollywood reported that a man by the name of Jamie Otis took credit for destroying the star. And he told the outlet that his intent was to auction off the removed parts of the star to raise money for the legal defense of Trump accusers. And the star was also defaced another time in February of 2016 and spray painted with a swastika. Which, like I said, very heartbreaking, completely inappropriate that someone would even do that. And I forgot to mention to you guys, in the political spectrum, House Republicans just tonight introduced articles of impeachment against Rod Rosenstein. So a group of 11 House Republicans introduced articles of impeachment against Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein tonight. And the impeachment articles accuse Rosenstein of intentionally withholding documents and information from Congress, failure to comply with congressional subpoenas, and abuse of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Now, this is still a developing story, so I don't have too much more information on it. So going to move on a little bit more political news before we get into some world news. So National Security Advisor John Bolton has actually upset cabinet chiefs after slashing meetings to be more effective. And Defense Secretary James Mattis has gone so far to even draft a letter requesting the National Security Advisor hold more gatherings of agency and department chiefs. And this is from Politico. So National Security Advisor John Bolton's lack of high-level meetings in his first several months on the job is frustrating Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Defense Secretary James Mattis, administration officials and others familiar with the situation reported. And Mattis has gone so far as to draft a letter to Bolton requesting that he hold more gatherings of agency and department chiefs to smooth the bubble on thorny issues ranging from U.S. policy in Syria to North Korea, according to one senior administration official. So in particular, senior officials are concerned about the dearth of Principals Committee meetings scheduled by Bolton. And Principals Committee meetings are traditionally key forums for relevant cabinet bosses to prepare and recommend policy options for the president. Okay, and YouTube just came back, so sorry if you had that delay, the black screen for a minute, and a quick recap of what you missed. Right now, I am talking about National Security Advisor John Bolton not having enough high-level meetings in his first several months on the job, and how this is frustrating Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Defense Secretary James Mattis. So I'm going to back up a little bit for those who missed what I was talking about. So Mattis has gone so far to actually draft a letter to Bolton requesting that he hold more gatherings of agency and department chiefs to smooth the bubble on thorny issues ranging from U.S. policy in Syria to North Korea, according to one senior administration official. So in particular, senior officials are concerned about the dearth of Principals Committee meetings scheduled by Bolton, and Principals Committee meetings are traditionally key forums for relevant cabinet bosses to prepare and recommend policy options for the president. So of special concern in the U.S. relationship with Russia, especially since President Trump's July 16th meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin with only translators present. So officials across U.S. agencies have been trying to figure out what Trump and Putin discussed. And Russian officials, meanwhile, have taken advantage of the U.S. confusion to make a series of announcements about what they say Trump and Putin agreed upon. So Bolton did not convene any principals committee meetings to discuss the Trump-Putin summit ahead of time, and it hasn't held any such meetings on the issue since the event took place. So Bolton is taking steps that could assuage these concerns, convening at least 3 high-level meetings this week to tackle U.S. policy on Iran, North Korea, and election security. And defenders say Bolton, who held top national security positions during the George W. Bush administration, is simply cutting unnecessary bureaucratic red tape, pushing the nitty-gritty discussion to lower levels. And one White House official said he doesn't want to meeting an issue to death. He wants to make the bureaucratic process more efficient so that decisions can be made at the principal's level. But across the U.S. national security establishment, there's a growing sense of breakdown in the policy process since Bolton took over the National Security Council on April 9th. And Ivo Dadler, who is a former U.S. ambassador to NATO, who is now president of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, said the rest of the government doesn't really know what the policy is. There's no record, there's no decision form, there's nothing out there to fall back on. Countries that we deal with don't really know what our policy is because people in our government don't follow. And an individual who's familiar with the situation, noting Bolton's reputation as a fierce bureaucratic knife fighter, added there is a sense that Bolton isn't necessarily representing the full views of the Senate and Pentagon regarding some issues to the president. So this week, Bolton has scheduled a formal national security meeting. So called because the president sits in on the gathering along with the agency and department chiefs to talk about election security, 2 White House officials said. So the meeting will likely tackle the subject of Russia, which U.S. intelligence officials say interfered in the 2016 campaign to help President Trump win. And the president has downplayed this conclusion while trying to gain favor with Putin, recently drawing bipartisan condemnation for his comments on the subject during a joint press conference with the Russian leader. So Bolton has also scheduled 2 principals committee meetings to discuss Iran and North Korea this week. So the National Security Council generally does not publicize the meeting it convenes, and not all NSC staffers are necessarily told about each one, which makes it really difficult to nail down statistics. But current and former NSC staffers say there's no question the number of formal high-level committee members has dropped sharply since Bolton took the helm. And Bolton replaced H.R. McMaster, whom President Trump fired and who regularly held such gatherings. So the main meetings in question are gatherings of the PC or Principals Committee, which includes cabinet members who deal with national security issues. And there also appears to be fewer meetings of the DC or Deputies Committee, which includes the number 2 officials from key departments and agencies, according to current and former NSC staffers. So ordinarily, there are 1 or 2 Principals Committee meetings held each week. In the run-up to a major event, there may be more, Dadler said, and under former President Obama, National Security Advisor Susan Rice would sometimes hold even more Principals Committee meetings, which annoyed some officials who felt the NSC was micromanaging other departments. So in principals committee meetings, top aides to the president can discuss and hash out key aspects of major policy issues. And the meetings also typically produce a record for those at lower levels in an attempt to put everyone on the same page about final decisions. And Brian McKean, who is a former top NSC official, said through the process of debate and deliberation, ideas get pressure tested, and some are dismissed as not as feasible or not as wise. And he also said the process also has the virtue of improving support and buy-in from departments and agencies. If the leadership of the agencies believe they've been given a chance to have their say and contribute to the decision, in theory, you'll have a less griping, leaking, or efforts to re-litigate decisions. So a White House official actually defended Bolton's approach, saying that he's holding fewer principals committee meetings because he wants more of the granular decisions to take place at lower levels. And the official added that Bolton is emulating a model used by Brent Scowcroft, who earned a reputation as one of the most effective national security advisors in U.S. history during stints under Gerald Ford and George H.W. Bush. So meanwhile, Bolton's number 2, Mira Ricardo, has convened at least 24 deputies committee meetings, said the White House official, who would not say how many principals committee meetings have been held. And the official added that top aides to the president often meet in other, sometimes informal settings, where they can discuss policy. For instance, Bolton has a weekly breakfast with Mattis and Pompeo, the White House official said. And other observers noticed that even though Scowcroft may have tried to be judicious in his use of principals committee meetings, he still held them regularly, especially in the run-up to major events. In fact, Scowcroft is credited with establishing the modern NCS structure that includes the principals committee. And of course, Mattis and Pompeo have their own lines to trump, so they can share their views directly with the president, and not having principals meetings, however, deprives them of a forum to raise concerns in a way that can openly influence their peers, critics said. So Francis Z. Brown, who is a former NCS official now with the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, said each principal on the NCS brings his own department's own special knowledge on the trade-offs of each option and how their team can help execute it. And he said you all need voices at the table in order to choose the most effective policy. Now, some analysts wondered whether Bolton has fewer principals committee meetings, in part because he's trying to reduce the possibility that the discussions will get leaked to the media. And Bolton is known to be a voracious reader, and NCS staffers are expected to regularly provide his office with updates on their subject. So he always definitely wants to know what's going on in the different areas. So his short tenure has also been an unusually busy stretch for President Trump and his aides, involving significant travel. And aside from Putin, Trump has also met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Singapore, as you know, and leaders of NATO and other allied countries in recent summits. So Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, for one, has barely been in Washington for the past few weeks. He's been traveling all over the place. But still, when cabinet leaders travel, they're equipped to dial in to principal meetings if the National Security Advisor requests it, people familiar with the process say. So the summit with Kim was a historic, unprecedented event, but Bolton did not hold a principals committee meeting in the run-up to it, according to 2 senior administration officials. So Pompeo's frustration by the lack of principals committee meetings was confirmed by a senior administration official, but State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert dismissed the idea that there's a problem. And she said, in a statement, Secretary Pompeo speaks frequently with the president, vice president, and his fellow cabinet members every day. He constantly confers with National Security Advisor Bolton and the entire national security team. He is leading the implementation of the president's foreign policy priorities and is able to provide his viewpoints to top government officials. So Bolton has also not held a town hall for NCS staffers, and some say this is actually a missed opportunity because such a gathering could help improve morale with the NSC, which took a hit after President Trump fired well-regarded McMaster to make way for Bolton. And an NCS staffer said of Bolton, he's a jovial, funny guy, but not a lot of people get FaceTime with him. So the White House official insisted that Bolton goes out of his way to talk to staffers, saying that once he took over as National Security Advisor, he visited every office to meet his team face-to-face, and that he has daily meetings with staffers. So McMaster was keen on having a strong, robust decision-making process, which included regular meetings at all levels. He held at least one and sometimes two principals committee meetings per week, a former NCS official said. But that devotion to process that may have hurt his standing with Trump, who is known to prefer a more free-flowing, improvisational approach to decision-making. So some analysts and former officials said Bolton may have decided to ease up on the number of meetings at high levels because Trump isn't necessarily interested in being presented with an array of options. And Dadler said of Trump, he doesn't care about formal process. He does not care about advice. He's not looking for a formal process that brings everyone together with options because he already knows what he wants to do. So that was definitely an interesting update about National Security Advisor John Bolton. And I want to switch it over to some heartbreaking world news in Syria. And I'm going to show you guys a picture of the scene